Hi everyone, it's Nichol Spohr for Spellbinders, and today we're going to be creating with the Just Add Cake birthday card making kit. I'm going to be focusing on the Light the Candles dies included in the kit, as well as several of the other amazing products. The Light the Candles, as well as all of the other dies, come with a wonderful little card that shows you exactly how to put together the dies included. I'm going to be creating a 5x7 card. We're also going to be using the confetti drop 3D embossing folder and the Just Add Cake stamps and coordinating dies. The box is so amazing to be able to mix and match. I also decided to take some of the dies from the Chompster set because there's an adorable little cupcake included in this set, and I think it's going to work perfectly with the Light the Candles. We're going to start by taking some sea glass cardstock and trimming it down to 5x7 for the background of our card. I love using the Spellbinders trimmer for this. Once we have our background, we are going to take it and run this through our die cutting machine with the confetti drop embossing folder. This is going to give some amazing texture to the background of our card without overwhelming the cupcake design. I love these embossing folders from Spellbinders as they allow you to emboss a lot of different sizes of cards very easily. And that way, if you are embossing an A2, a 5x7, landscape, portrait, whichever you prefer, it works so easily with room to spare. I love that. So I'm going to run that through my die cut machine using the sandwich for the 3D embossing folders, which is your platform A, your embossing folder with the cardstock inside, and your adapter plate. This is going to go through beautifully and give you a gorgeous embossed result. Look at that. Such a beautiful background that is going to allow our Light the Candles die cut designs to really shine. Next, I love to take a little white pigment ink and apply this to the raised areas of the card. I'm going to just rub this really gently. It's going to give a subtle bit of definition to the embossed areas. We don't want to necessarily change the color for this card, but I do want to draw a little bit more attention to this without, again, overwhelming the rest of the design. Then I'm going to place my background inside of a splatter box. I use a plastic box, and I'm going to take the lime zest splatter that's included in your Just Add Cake box, and we are going to add this to our background. I love the way this limey color looks on the sea glass cardstock. It is going to create the perfect amount of distress interest that'll peek through when we add our cupcakes to this design. I'm just kind of using a tapping motion with my finger and applying this hopefully in areas that will show, especially around the edges of the panel. We're going to set that aside to dry, and we're going to work on our our Light the Candles die set. So of course, this shows you exactly how to assemble all of the products. You could easily combine all of them on your cupcake for a single cupcake, but I decided to kind of divide them up, if you will, and do a few elements per cupcake. So instead of having all of the flowers, all of the candles, all of the fruit on one cupcake, we're going to do more of a nuanced design where a couple of the cupcakes have florals. Maybe there's the ribbon around the cupcake wrapper. Some of them will have the cherry from the design. Some will have multiple blueberries. And that's kind of how we're going to put these together. I am using the handy tools from Spellbinders and the cardstock included in the Just Add Cake kit, and we are assembling the pieces. They go together so easily. You can add stripes to your cupcake wrapper like I did here. I like to do kind of a tone on tone effect with the different colors. So I use some saffron and beeswax cardstock. And then we're going to add our fawn colored cake. Vanilla cake is what I'm imagining in here to the cupcake. Then we're going to take our frosting, and this is a two-piece. So there's the solid piece, and then there is the piece that cuts out the confetti sprinkles on the cupcake. You can choose to use that with or without. I really do like the texture that you get by adding that. So I'm going to do my darker piece on top of the lighter blush cardstock here. And then the light sprinkles are going to show through the die cut areas. We're going to then pop this right on top of our cupcake. All of the pieces go together so easily. And then I'm going to put a little glue right there on the bottom and add that to the top of the cupcake. Next, we're going to take some of the florals from the set. So I'm going to be using these right here. I'm going to grab the dies and show you exactly which ones we're using for this. And we're going to layer together the florals. Much like the top of the cupcake, there's a couple of layering pieces. So one of the colors will just peek out from the die cut areas in the other design. And then we'll add flower centers to this. I'm going to pop up the floral with a little piece of foam adhesive, and that's going to allow me to tuck some of the leaves underneath. So I'm going to use my little pickup tool here, and we're going to grab the flower center and pop that in place. Just like that. And if you need to move it a little bit, you can definitely take the little picker or the picking tool and move that around, or kind of remove any little glue. Sometimes I use that little sharp pointy tip for that as well. To pop this up, I'm going to place a foam adhesive square right back behind the center, nothing out to the edge, as I want to be able to tuck some of the leaves underneath. Then I'm going to put a little glue on my leaves, and we're going to start building the little floral arrangement for our cupcake. So a couple of little leaves, and then we're going to assemble the bow. This cupcake wrapper is the only one I believe that I chose to put a bow on. And if your leaf doesn't quite go all the way underneath your floral, you can easily snip off anything that's not going to show, like I did there, and then go ahead and tuck it in place. That little bit of foam adhesive really helps lift that floral off of the frosting. So here are the pieces to put together the bow. I love that it has a little layering piece so it looks like it's folded over. I'm going to put a little glue on there. And then we're just going to place that right back behind. We're using a little sea glass and waterfall cardstock for the bow here. Really bright, happy colors for all of the components on this card, which of course are perfect for birthdays. And then we're going to do the other side, and then the little piece that goes in the center. And we will glue the bow right to our cupcake wrapper. And I love this little pickup tool. It works so fantastic. Using my tweezers, then I am going to pop this in place. And I'm going to put a little foam adhesive back behind the center of the bow, nowhere else. And then we're just going to place that right there. And one of our cupcakes is ready to be placed on our card. We're going to work on our next cupcake. This one, again, we're going to do the stripes on the cupcake wrapper. And then we're going to add our frosting. But for this, we're going to add a cherry and some candles. All of these pieces are from the Light the Candles set. We haven't used anything from Chompster quite yet. We'll get to those. And again, I like the tone-on-tone cupcake wrapper. So we're using a couple of coordinating shades of cardstock in Bellini and Coral, again with our Fawn Vanilla Cupcake. And then we're going to use chiffon and tutu cardstock for our frosting. I chose to use the confetti piece again. We're going to use our die cut cherry, which was die cut from Poppy cardstock. And the cherry really looks good against this pink cardstock, I think. I love the way that looks. Again, lots of bright, happy colors. Now, one thing I noticed as I was putting everything together is that this particular cupcake feels a little light on the embellishment. And you're especially going to see this when we put everything together. But I am going to add some extra greenery, depending on where I kind of know where the sentiment's going to go, but just depending on how that looks. So we will come back to this and add a few additional pieces. To get the stem in the cherry, I kind of like to use my tweezers or even the piercing tool to kind of lift that open and tuck the stem in place. And then I added a little glue and I put a foam adhesive dot on the back to secure, and we'll pop our cherry onto our cupcake. Look how cute. There are some little small leaves, and I decided to take one of those and glue it to the stem. The stem is fairly delicate and small, so the littlest bit of glue is going to work here. And using your Spellbinders tweezers, those precision tweezers really help you get the perfect placement for your leaf. And then when that dries, it will be nice and secure. But I love the look of the rainforest die cut leaves with this. It adds a bright, happy look. I've got 2 candles die cut from this set. And in this, there's the flame, the wick, and the candle. The candles in the Light the Candles die set included in your Just Add Cake box are nice and long. So I'm going to put that little circular part back behind the long candle, and that's going to have your wick. And then we're going to glue the flame on top of that. I decided to do 2 candles in this one. And then we're going to kind of tuck those back behind the cupcake in varying heights. This is where your pickup tool is going to come in so handy to be able to pick up all of these little pieces and place them exactly where you want them to go. Look how cute those candles are. Even a card made with multiples of these candles would be absolutely adorable. I'm going to just put a little glue on the bottom of each of these, and then we're going to place them back behind our cupcake at varying heights. Hopefully to look like they are tucked right into the frosting of our cupcake. So our second cupcake is done, and we have 2 more to finish. One thing before I move on to the third cupcake is that I decided to put some little stripes into the candles themselves with a white jelly roll pen, just for a little additional detail. I didn't use the white pen really on any other designs, but I thought it helped define the candles a little bit. And I'll add a little highlight to the cherry as well. And I like how that looks. Cupcake 3, I've already put together the cupcake wrapper and the frosting, and this one is going to feature some blueberries. I've got my blueberries die cut here, and we're going to place a little bit of waterfall cardstock as the solid piece back behind the lavender. And this is going to make those blueberries just very fun and match the rest of our card perfectly. I'm doing 3 blueberries on my cupcake, popped up with foam adhesive squares to give that little bit of lift and added interest. Then we're going to tuck all of our die cut rainforest cardstock leaves around our blueberries. Repeating elements is one of my favorite techniques, especially since I chose not to use all of the different elements for the Light the Candles set on a single cupcake. The greenery of the leaves is really going to add some nice added interest. Now, this particular cupcake is kind of like that second one we created, where I feel like it doesn't have as much going on as maybe the floral cupcake. This is going to be the quadrant of our card that I add that extra mini cupcake from the Chompster set. As you can see, this is going to be that final 4th quadrant. We have 1, 2, and 4. And this is where I like to add something a little bit interesting and a little fun. So the little cupcake from Chompster, we're also going to add a candle to this one. Bright, happy colors again. And it's going to kind of overlap right down here along the left side of the cupcake. And that will add interest while still maintaining that 4-quadrant look on our card design. I'm going to go ahead and put a little glue on my cake piece and layer my little cupcake wrapper on here. Then we're going to glue the frosting and the candle to this, and this candle in the Chompster set also has the candle portion, a wick, and the flame, so you have all of those different pieces that layer together. It's a little bit chunkier candle than the one from Light the Candles, but again, I think they work really fun together for a whimsical look if you wanted to combine them, maybe on the larger cupcake or even the smaller one. And then we're going to tuck this cupcake in with that 4th quadrant cupcake. Super cute. And then when you pair it, that instantly elevates that quadrant of the card. So cute. Okay, let's talk 4th quadrant. This one is going to be a very floral heavy card again. You'll notice that I have my 2 floral cupcakes diagonal from each other on purpose. I feel like those are a little bit more of the embellishment heavy cupcakes. We're going to layer together a different floral for this one. One of the bigger flowers again, and then I am going to use additional small flowers and little sprigs, leaves, all of the things with this. We will be popping this flower up with foam adhesive like we did for the other large flower. And that's going to allow us to tuck leaves and greenery kind of underneath. This has 2 different pieces for the center. So I've got a little poppy, and then I'm going to also have a little beeswax here for the layering piece that goes inside. And it goes a certain direction. I'm trying to get it lined up. There we go. It's really, really cute. And then once we have that placement, we can start building the rest of our florals around this. I'm going to tuck this over on the left side, and then we're going to add some leaves, a little leafy branch, and then I love the little branch that has the little berry buds or little blooms on it, And we have that die cut from fawn and saffron cardstock. So on all of the little circles on that branch, that's where we're going to place those little buds. And then the little teeny tiny florals are die cut from poppy, and they're going to have little beeswax flower centers. And I love the addition of those on any of the cards. We're going to maybe do 1 or 2 more of those. We'll see how many we end up using around our sentiment. I'm going to add a little bit of glue to each of these little ends of the branch, and that's where these bigger circles are going to go. We're going to glue those in place. And again, your little pickup tool is going to be invaluable for this, and then your precision tweezers. And this adds such a great little bit of texture. You could use the florals on other cards you create as well. They don't have to be used with the Light the Candles cupcake at all. They're another great floral addition here that you can use for all your card making. Then I'm going to maybe put a little dab of glue, and we're going to pick up our little red bloom. Look how cute that is. Let's do the other one as well. And then we've got those little flower centers. That we want to add. Oh, my flower tried to come up. I'm going to try to put that right back in there into my floral arrangement. And there is our final cupcake, and that's going to go in the 3rd quadrant of our card. So here you can see how I have it laid out. I've also taken some sentiments from our Just Add Cake stamp set, and I've laid them out to position where I want them to go. In this case, I really liked a couple of the sentiments. There are coordinating dies for them. And if it slightly overlaps that first cupcake, remember how I mentioned I felt like that cupcake needed a little something else? We're going to achieve that by when we stamp and add our sentiment, we're going to tuck some additional little florals around that. So what I'm going to do is take foam adhesive again, and we are going to attach all of the cupcakes to our embossed and splattered background. And we're going to build those 4 quadrants. So now that we have all 4 quadrants adhered to our 5x7 card, this is going to give us the placement for our sentiments. And I just want to set aside my dies for a second while we do our sentiments. And I love to do a tone on tone as far as when I add my sentiments to my background. In this case, we have that sea glass background. So I've got a little scrap here that I'm going to position 2 of the sentiments from the stamp set. We have Just Add Cake and Leave Nothing But Crumbs. And we're going to use some blue raspberry Hero Hues ink to stamp that. And that way I can stamp it a couple of times. This is going to be a very tone on tone greeting for our card. And then the coordinating die cuts nice and close to these. The great thing about stamping these on the same color as the background is it will kind of almost blend into the background of the card. I've got both of my coordinating dies here. I'm going to tape them in place with a little bit of yellow tape from Spellbinders. Run those through my Platinum 6, and then we are going to place these on our card. We'll use a little bit of foam adhesive to pop these up as well. Just Add Cake is going to slightly overlap that first cupcake, and Leave Nothing But Crumbs is going to be a little bit more in the center of the card, kind of pulling everything together, if you will. You can see that by stamping with the blue raspberry on the sea glass background, so it's very tone on tone, it blends into the background, but it's still very easy to read. We're going to pop up both sentiments with a little foam, and I want to look and see where my sentiment goes over the cupcake. And then we'll just peel off our little backing. And on either side, I'm going to double up my foam squares because we've popped up the cupcakes already. So out there on the ends, we're going to need double. But right in the center where it's on the cupcake, we only need one foam square. That's going to make it nice and secure and lay nice on our card. And then we're just simply going to layer this right here at the base of our cupcake. How cute is that? Now around our Just Add cake, that's where we're going to add some of those die cut pieces. I'm also going to put some foam adhesive on the back of Leave Nothing But Crumbs. And we're going to pop this up and tuck it in right underneath Just Add Cake. This is where your thin foam adhesive strips come in handy. And I'm just going to kind of buddy that up right with the Just Add Cake, like so. And that looks amazing, and it ties all of the whole design together so beautifully. We're going to add the rest of our greenery now, and that is going to go kind of towards the base of that first cupcake, and it ties it all together and adds that extra little touch that really adds interest. So again, another one of these little berry branches, we're going to have a little green leafy branch, and then the little red bloom, nothing very big. You'll notice I picked some of the smaller elements. We want to keep the focus on the larger cupcakes, but these little smaller elements look really nice tucked around the main part of the sentiment. And we'll use our precision tweezers again to kind of hold that in place and see how we can just tuck it right underneath the edge of the sentiment. We're going to add the green leafy branch first, our little berry branch next, layering all of these pieces together, and kind of maneuvering those two pieces so they really layer nicely, and then finishing with that little red bloom. And there we go. Look at that fun cupcake card. To make my card base, I'm again going to take my Spellbinders trimmer, and we are going to trim down our cardstock to 10 inches long. So I'm going to use the cutting blade to trim off 1 inch from the short side. And then on the long side, we're going to make our card 7 inches. So it'll be 7 by 10. And then we're going to measure out to the 5-inch mark and use our scoring blade to score our card in half. Then we have the perfect card base for the background we just made. Now I have one more thing I want to add to my card as soon as I have my background in place. So let's go ahead and glue this down. And I did end up trimming off of the background before I attached all of my cupcakes. So it's a little bit smaller, leaving a nice white border all the way around. It's 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. And then we'll take some of the sequins included in the Just Add Cake box, and using little dabs of glue, we're going to glue our sequins all over the background. And that's going to add a little extra sparkle. And especially there in that second quadrant on the card, there's a little more white space up above, which I like. So kind of in between those first two cupcakes, we're adding a nice little scattering of sequins. And then we'll add a couple more just to tie it all together. So especially, I kind of like to do my sequins in a diagonal a lot, but also in groups of 3. But I don't want to do 3 every time. That's a little too matchy-matchy. So we have 3 up high, we have got 2 down here, and I think we'll add maybe another few kind of here by the sentiment. And maybe even one here by that little group of florals on our cupcake wrapper. And those sequins are the perfect finishing touch. They completely match our colors that we used of cardstock and all of that good stuff. Let's add a couple more here. I moved one of my magnets that I was using to help hold my background down while the glue dried. And there we have it, friends. Our Light the Candles cupcake card is all finished. I've got a bonus card for you today using the color block arches in Arches dies, and I've die cut these from several colors of cardstock to use as the background of my card. This time we're going to do an A2 sized card, and we're going to be taking one of the white side fold card bases included in your Just Add Cake box, and one of the Arches dies, the nesting Arches dies, and we're going to die cut that to make an arch shaped card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the die that I want to use for my card. So this is going to be the size of my card, and I've got my solid die cut piece here, and you can see how I'm going to be layering together the color block arches and my background. And I am going to take that die then and layer it off of the left side of the card. I'm going to use a little bit of my yellow tape to hold this in place. And I want that side where the card folds to hang off of the edge. So I'm just going to double check and make sure my card is opening there on the right, that I'm not accidentally cutting it wrong. And we're going to tape it in place and run it through our machine. This is going to give us the perfectly shaped arch card. It's that cut line on the left side is hanging off of the folded edge, so it's going to open up perfectly. Once we've die cut that, we're going to pop our die off, and now we have a great shaped card. I love doing these shaped cards with these large nesting die sets. We're going to go ahead and glue our background right to our card base, and that's going to give us the perfect arch. And then we're going to glue our layering pieces in place as well to build our background. I'm going to take a little bit of our lime zest splatter and add that to our card background as well. Even out to our border, I like that tone on tone splatter. I want to make sure I get a little bit out there for this card. Once we have all of this, we're going to go ahead and set this aside to dry, die cut all of our pieces for our Light the Candles cupcake, and our cupcake is going to go right in the center of this background. And I went really heavy on the splatter on this card. Also, while this background is drying, we're going to heat up our glimmer machine, and we are going to go ahead and foil the Make It Count sentiments. Now these are dies, but I love to foil this particular sentiment. You get 5 different greetings. This is part of the Just Add Cake box and the banner die. I'm going to foil my sentiment, and I've got my sentiment here, a little bit of black foil and my cardstock, and we're going to foil that die cut onto our rainforest cardstock just like this. Then we're going to die cut that sentiment with our coordinating banner die. I'm going to die cut another banner out of a contrast color of cardstock that will slightly stick out of the sides. So I've got Celebrate Big. I'm not going to worry about the overfoil. I'm going to trim down our die cut a little bit. If I used it like this, I would maybe need to erase that or try to get rid of the overfoil, but I'm going to shift my die just a little bit and die cut close to the front of the sentiment first. Let's tape it in a couple places so it doesn't shift. And then we're going to flip the sentiment around and we're going to die cut the other end. That does mean that the contrast banner that I'm using for my die will need to be trimmed down as well. So you can see how I've die cut it. I'm going to flip it around and die cut it again. But I wanted mine to be a little bit shorter. So this is a great way to trim down your sentiment strips or banner strips. I love the way this particular font foils, and it's one of my favorite techniques. I'm going to layer this on that contrast piece of cardstock. If you were die cutting it, your contrast cardstock would show through all of those die cut pieces if you don't want to glimmer. And I'm going to go ahead and glue that in place. And then I'm going to put my die, and I'm just going to run this through my die cut machine far enough that it clicks and cuts off that little flag banner, but I don't want to run the whole thing through. Okay, it's time to pull all of the pieces together now. And you can see there, I've got a cupcake with florals, candles, and cherries ready to go for my card. We're going to pop up our sentiment and we're going to pop up our floral design right here on our arched card. I also have another sentiment stamped and die cut from our Just Add Cake set. For this one, our cupcake is going to sit right on top of our greeting, and then I have additional cherries and greenery to tuck around the base of the design. Those extra little pops of color around the base of the cupcake perfectly finish off this card design and add that extra fun touch of color. Our bonus card is all finished. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these 2 cards featuring the Just Add Cake box, Light the Candles die set, and additional products from Spellbinders. I hope this inspires you to create with your Just Add Cake box. I can't wait to see everything you make with the amazing products from the box. Have fun creating, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!